Hi everyone, welcome back to Live with Lori. Okay, so this week's topic, we're going to be talking about Medicaid planning. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you ever have any questions, feel free to comment below or DM us if you want us to talk about specific topics that have to do with elder law. But yeah, this week is Medicaid planning. Hi Lori, how are you?
Hi, I'm
welcome
good,
back.
How are you?
Good, thank you. So, yeah, let's start off with, people always ask the difference between Medicaid and Medicare. Today we're focusing on Medicaid. Can you please explain what Medicaid is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Medicaid is the means-tested program. That's a program that was originally put in place to provide medical coverage for people who were living at or around the poverty level. It has since become the primary way of providing long-term custodial care to seniors and disabled people. The reason being, Medicare does not cover that. Now, what I mean by long-term care is home health aides in the home, like let's say round the clock, or nursing home care. Medicare doesn't cover it. Primary insurance doesn't cover it. So by default, it has ended up being the way that long-term care gets paid for.
Mm-hmm. And I love the Medicaid, the aid portion of the word Medicaid is aid to help people in need. Okay, so what would you describe as Medicaid planning? What is that process?
So what Medicaid planning is it's kind of a form of estate planning. When people, let's say my age or so, or older, want to get their estate in order, they want to do their will, they want to do advance directives, so they appoint someone to handle their finances if something happens to them. They appoint someone to handle their health care if they can't make their own decisions. When we talk about Medicaid planning, traditionally people might come in to do their estate planning and their concern might have been, how do I avoid estate taxes? Because the estate tax threshold used to be very low back in the day, so that was an issue for a lot of people. It's very high now, and what we see a lot more of, in my practice anyway, is people wanting to protect their assets from the possibility of needing long-term care. In other words, if I need to go into a nursing home, how do I not have to liquidate my entire life savings to pay the $18,000 a month nursing home bill? Or if I need round-the-clock home health aides because I'd rather age at home, that's a fortune too if you're paying for it privately. That's, I mean, probably around $260,000 a year is what you'll end up going out of pocket if you're paying for round-the-clock home health aides.
Yes,
so
which is insane.
Right. So we want to plan to get our assets out of our name. Ideally, before the need arises.
Yes,
that's when you're going to be able to protect all of your assets. Even if you're doing the last minute thing, we could still protect some of your assets. But ideally, you want to do this when you're of sound mind and reasonably good health.
Yes. Well, in terms of, another question was about Medicaid planning, how that intersects with estate planning.
Wait,
Yeah.
Wait, I have a hair dilemma. Wait,
It's okay.
tell me
You
when
look
it's
gorgeous.
fixed. Well,
Yes, beautiful.
I can't see it. Okay.
Oh my God, it looks great.
How does it intersect with estate planning?
Which is kind of what you described and how they work hand in hand.
In some ways, they are synonymous. The larger estates, the estate tax threshold right now is over $12 million for a single individual. So it's like over $25 million for a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in that category, you're more likely to be able to afford long-term care if that becomes necessary than if you have a more modest estate. And it doesn't have to be that modest. If you've got an estate of a couple or a few $1 million, you're doing your estate planning. You want to say, what happens to my assets after I die? And do I want to avoid probate? Usually the answer is yes. So I want to do a trust anyway. So then the question becomes, do I want to do the kind of trust that simply avoids probate? Or do I want to do the kind of trust that allows me to protect my assets in case I need care during my lifetime? So, and how do we decide that? Well, one thing is our age, and the other thing is our health. You know, if I'm 33 and I'm coming in to do estate planning, you know, I have a couple of kids, want to make sure that they are protected, that we appoint guardians for them if something happens to mom and dad. That's one kind of planning. And we would be more inclined to use a revocable living trust. Yes, it would avoid probate, but we're not tying up our assets in a way that's a little bit more difficult for us to get at, like we are if we're doing Medicaid planning and trying to protect that asset, trying to have Medicaid consider that asset out of our name.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of someone of a younger age, 33, I'm about to be 32, but I also heard you yesterday speaking to a client about they were interested in kind of starting the planning process. And what was can you explain a little bit about that? Because they didn't have children, it would be like kind of a little bit of a different planning process. Do you remember that?
Well, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but for people who don't have children, they have to do a lot more thinking about what their estate plan is going to be.
Okay.
Because, you know, generally speaking, people with children are going to leave their assets to their children. You know, for the most part.
Yes.
People who don't have children, and let's say they didn't do a will, they die intestate. Well, okay, we have to figure out who their next of kin is. Who are their heirs at law? Now, like I was telling a person yesterday, which I think is the conversation you're referring to, you know, we just sat and did planning and a Medicaid trust for his parents.
Okay.
If, God forbid, you predecease your parents and you don't have a will or a trust or anything, guess who's going to inherit from you? Your parents, because you don't have children. So,
and it's kind of like you said, kind of backwards.
Right. We did all this planning to get assets away from your parents, and now
they
some assets are going to be dumped on them.
Yes.
You know, so we don't want that. We also, with people who don't have kids, we also, let's say they die intestate, they don't have parents, they don't have siblings. Well, who's going to inherit from them under the intestacy statute? Their first cousins. Maybe they've got 40 of them, half of whom they've never even met. Like, chances are that's not what they would want.
Yes.
Maybe they want to leave everything to North Shore Animal League,
or a friend,
or someone who,
or their cat or dog,
or a pet trust, right? Yes. So they make sure the continuity of care is there for their
like
animal.
Pets more than humans,
right? Me too. But yeah, so okay. That's the harder person to plan for, because they have to do more thinking about,
be more intentional
they have to be more intentional, right? I mean, so
yeah, I think that just came up yesterday. I remember overhearing that. So the fact that it's kind of what we're talking about today, connecting. Because that's what you were doing with his parents, the Medicaid plan, Medicaid.
No, we were doing Medicaid planning.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, another question, and I guess it's kind of the same in terms of, can you explain common Medicaid planning strategies?
Yeah, I mean, the idea would be, and again, it's always better if we do this proactively when you are of sound mind and reasonably good health. We prefer not to do it when you have one foot in the nursing home, although that's also a thing, and there's still things we can do for you.
Yes.
But a typical strategy would be to put your assets into a Medicaid asset protection trust. Now that's an irrevocable trust. I always call it irrevocable-ish because it's a hybrid. The IRS treats, the way we do them as grantor trusts, which causes the IRS to treat those assets as if you still own them. I I'll use very
excuse me,
very layperson language.
Yes.
They're going to treat those assets as if you still own them for tax purposes. So in other words, when you die, if these assets are in your name, your beneficiaries are going to get a step up in basis so that they're not going to end up having a huge capital gains tax to deal
which
with.
people ask all the time. We always get questions about the taxes and to be tax free and the way to kind of what the process is to not to avoid that.
So, but on the other hand, this trust has Medicaid consider that asset out of your name for Medicaid purposes. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Okay.
The IRS treats you favorably, Medicaid treats you favorably. So that's a very typical planning technique. Also, there are certain types of ways to transfer your money which Medicaid considers exempt. In other words, they don't penalize them. One of those ways is to a disabled adult child or a disabled person, or a trust for a disabled person, or let's say you need to go in the nursing home and your house is in your name and one of your adult children has been living with you for at least 2 years. The idea is that they have enabled you to stay at home longer because of their presence, so Medicaid will allow you to transfer your house to that person.
Oh, wow.
Without penalizing the transfer.
Got
so
it.
you transfer it to that person right into the nursing home. I mean, if that's what's going on.
Yes.
And that transfer won't be penalized. So we look at their family and we see what their family composition is. Do you have a disabled child, an adult child who's receiving benefits, who's got a disability determination? Do you have a developmentally disabled child? Planning for that child would also happen in the context of doing Medicaid planning. So we're looking for how do we get the assets out of your name in a way that's not going to end you up getting penalized by Medicaid.
Got it.
So basically, for the oversimplification.
No. We love it. The more, the more we know, the better. So it's basically you make the assessments, and then during the consultation, you make the assessment and the recommendations and different options that are out there. So this is a two-part question, but what are Medicaid's eligibility requirements? And then another question was about, in terms of have there been recent changes to Medicaid laws that affect eligibility?
That's a lot of questions.
Okay, so we'll start off. We'll start off with Medicaid's eligibility requirements.
So first of all, Medicaid is a means-tested program, so you have to be eligible income-wise, asset-wise, and medical-wise.
Okay.
Now, income-wise, the income limit for a single person applying for Medicaid is, I'm going to round it because there's some cents involved, but $17.32. You can make $17.32 a month and be eligible for Medicaid.
Okay.
If you make more than, and that's a single person. For a couple, it's $23.51. That's also rounded.
Okay.
If you make more than that, which many people do, then we have techniques where we're going to shelter your excess income in a pooled income trust, so you don't have to contribute it toward the care, and you don't have to be denied the Medicaid. So that's the income requirement. Asset requirements, the asset threshold, or what we call the resource threshold, this year is $31,174.
Okay.
So that's what you can have in total resources. We're not right now counting the house because the house is considered exempt when you're applying for Medicaid. So we're talking bank accounts, the cash value of your life insurance, annuities, stock accounts, any accounts that you have, they can total the 31,174.
Got it.
So that's that's some of the criteria. If you have a spouse living in the community, that spouse can have about 154,000 in assets in their name, and you can still be eligible.
Oh, wow.
So, every year the numbers change a little bit. There are COLA increases to the Social Security benefits, and the income threshold and the asset thresholds go up commensurately.
Perfect. Amazing. Did you want to discuss any changes in Medicaid laws that you know of, or there's too many?
Well, okay.
Well, I think what's great
Sure.
about you is that you do a lot of continuing education. So you're always up on whether it's daily sending me articles and blog posts and just keeping educated, which I think makes you stand out from a lot of people that don't.
Plus, I've been around so long.
Well, a lot of attorneys or people, I feel in their profession, they don't go above and beyond to do the continuing education all the time.
Although in my field, you kind of have to. We kind of do. There have been a lot of changes lately. One of the big changes, which has not gone into effect yet, was that they added a look-back period to Medicaid home care in New York.
Yes. Is that the 5 year?
No, that's the 2.5 year.
Okay.
It's a 30-month look-back period. It has not been implemented. As we sit here today, there is no look-back period.
As of April 25th, 2024.
Right. And there's not going to be for... the earliest it could be implemented is spring of next year, 2025.
Can you explain a little bit of look-back, what that means?
Well, yeah. What that means is if I apply for Medicaid, let's say for home health aides, and let's say that look-back period gets implemented. What Medicaid would do is they would take all of my records for the last 2.5 years, and they would look at them, and they would say, did you transfer any assets in order to become eligible for Medicaid? So what might that mean? Did you do a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust? Did you transfer a bunch of gifts to your kids?
Yes.
That's how they do it for nursing home. That's a 5-year look-back period. That's how they do it for nursing home. That's not how they do it for home care right now. And there are efforts afoot to repeal that law that didn't go into effect yet.
Okay.
So our hope is that it does not ever go into effect, but right now we don't know that. And we don't know when it will go into effect. So,
and if they do the look back and they find things, what is that process after that?
They'll deny you.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm applying, well, let's talk nursing home, because I don't want anyone to be confused and think that there is a look back period in place for home care right now.
Okay. You already said possible, and if so, next year.
Right.
Possible.
So, if I'm applying for nursing home and they're going to move up. They're going to ask me for, and I'm going to have to provide 5 years worth of statements for all of my accounts that I've had within the last 5 years. They are going, move back. Okay. I'm not a natural with the camera.
Yeah, it's okay.
So
we're an open book over here.
So they're going to look at those statements with a fine-tooth comb. And they're in particular going to look at any deposits or withdrawals over $2,000. And let's say last year I transferred $100,000 to my daughter because because I know I'm going to be needing nursing homes soon.
Yes.
They're going to see that and they're going to deny my
You're
application.
not going to like that.
No. Or they do like it because they're going to say, no, we won't pay.
Yes, they like it.
But so that's how the look back period works. So ideally, you want to look into your crystal ball and do these transfers at least 5 years before you need nursing home. Now, obviously, you see the problem with that.
Yes.
We don't have crystal balls.
Yes, but that's the planning ahead and being proactive.
Right. That's why we're doing, we're looking at probabilities. Like if I'm healthy now and I'm 65 now, probably I won't need nursing home in the next 5 years. So this is a good time for me to think about transferring my assets. Sometimes it's a closer call, and we do the best we can with the information we have. And if we have to go back and make a new plan because something happens, well, that's what we have to do.
Okay, so the next question is kind of about that in terms of what pitfalls should people avoid in Medicaid planning?
Yeah, sure. We should not wait too long, not wait till we're too old or too sick.
Last minute,
to
yes.
do it. We should avoid last minute if we can. If it's the last minute and you feel like you're too old or too sick, don't not do something. It's better if you had done it sooner, but we can always do something to help you.
Yes.
So waiting too long is a pitfall. Transferring things willy-nilly on your own without advice is another big pitfall.
Is it because it could raise red flags?
Well, it will raise red flags if you do
not doing it properly.
But, yeah, like let's say you're trying to dump your assets because you think that you're going to need care in the near future, and you have 4 kids and you give $100,000 to each kid. Okay, well, Johnny over here has never been able to hold on to $10.
So he spent it all,
right? Maybe the other 3 know that they're holding on to this for mom in case mom needs care in the future, blah, blah, blah. If mom needs nursing home and the 5 years hasn't run yet, she's going to have to get back those hundreds that she gave to all of her kids. If Johnny's 100 is gone and mom can't get it back, she's going to get penalized for the whole transfer, the whole $400K that she transferred.
Wow.
If she can get all of those hundreds back, she gets all the 400 back, then we could make a new plan for her.
Got it.
She's not going to get the penalty for transferring 400 because she undid that. But she has to undo it in its entirety. You have to do what we call a complete return of gift in order to get a do-over like that.
Yes. And that's
That's a pitfall if mom just
Yeah,
it out.
And it's actually the last question is going to be about the asset transfers and gifts. But I know, like during consultations, you do, or even during the signings, you make it very clear about if we give you, to the kids, if this money is given to you, you don't touch it. So I think kind of
it's preferable, because if we don't make the look back period, you have to give it back.
Yes,
and then there are other techniques we could use. We can do what's considered a gift note technique. We could make a loan of half of that money back to Johnny.
Got it.
Okay, and that is going to give us a penalty period. And then the other half of that money, we're going to make a loan to Johnny, and Johnny's going to use that to pay the private pay nursing home during that penalty period.
Got it.
So there are things we can do.
Yes.
But our options are limited if we don't have the whole money to transfer back.
Yes. Okay, and last question it has to do, what are the implications of asset transfers or gifts when it comes to Medicaid planning?
Well, the implications are if they are, there are a lot of implications, but so if we did it and we need nursing home within 5 years of doing it, we're going to have to be able to give it all back. That's what we just went through.
Yes.
We're going to have to give it all back and make a new plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say we might be trying to decide, should I do a trust or should I do an outright gift to my daughter? I only have one daughter.
Yes.
Right? So why do I need a trust? Why don't I give it outright to her? Okay, well, what if she gets sued? That money legally belongs to her, and that's available to her creditors.
Got it.
Okay. Also, what if she gets divorced? That asset, which she probably commingled with her husband's,
yes,
because
he could take it and run with it.
Well, he'll be entitled to his share of it, assuming they commingled it, which they probably did.
Yes.
So there's that. all kinds of things could happen to money once it leaves your hand.
Yes.
Right? So, what else?
Yeah.
Oh, what if it's appreciated assets that I'm transferring? What if it's a portfolio of stocks that I bought 50 years ago or whatever, and I transfer that portfolio to my daughter? Well, she is going to get a big capital gains tax when those assets get sold. If I'm putting them into a grantor trust, a Medicaid asset protection trust, when I die, she's going to get those assets anyway, but they're going to get a step up in basis, meaning she will take them at the value that they are on the date of my death. So
appreciation,
right. So she's not going to get whacked with a big capital gains tax.
Got it.
What else?
I mean, I think that's great for a few examples. Yeah, I think we spoke about a lot. Anything else? Any last words about Medicaid planning? We'll, always come back and do part 2s and 3s of the same topic, but I think we covered a lot today. How do you feel about it?
I feel fine about it.
You're very passionate. This is a big part of what you specialize in is Medicaid planning.
Right. Although we don't use the word specialize in the law because we're not allowed to.
Oh, okay.
We don't have specialties like the doctors do. But yeah, that's my primary area of focus. So yeah, I guess, and it's interesting to figure out how to get this information out there, because as much as I blab about it all day long, and so do all my colleagues.
Yes.
People really don't know the rules.
No.
And you see stuff on the internet, and because Medicaid is also a federal program, federally funded program with federal rules, they'll look things up, but that might not necessarily apply to New York.
Yes.
And New York is actually a little bit more generous than most states. So, like New Jersey, for instance, I'm pretty sure has a 5-year look-back period for home care.
Okay.
And New York has a 0 look-back period.
Yes.
So we can get you care in the home, even if we transfer your assets right now and we want to apply next month.
Yes.
To get home care, we can do that in New York.
Which is a benefit.
Which is an awesome benefit.
Yes.
It's really amazing. And even though the system is broken in many respects right now, we can still get you a whole lot of care. We can still get you round-the-clock care if you warrant it.
Perfect.
So it really, once we get you there, it's really excellent. It's an excellent benefit.
Perfect. Amazing. And also, if you want to learn more information on Medicaid and home care, you wrote a book.
I wrote a book.
So you could find that book on Amazon. You can click the link in our bio. And that's really a great resource, and it's very, step by step and very informative and helpful. So
yeah, and I really wrote it to give to my clients when we're going through the process.
Yes.
So they can kind of keep on top of where we are, why we're here, how far do we have to go.
Yes.
What did you say again about how the pooled income trust works?
Yeah.
What did you say again about why I have to have all these assessments? It's kind of, it's just really for the purpose of helping you understand the process that you're going through or that you're about to go through.
Yes. Perfect. So yeah, check out her book. And also, check us out on TikTok. We're going to be doing a few this or that or would you rathers. We'll put some cute ones up there. So follow us on TikTok as well. And we will see you guys next week. Feel free to comment, follow, comment, share, and DM us if you have any topics you'd like us to talk about. And
DM means you're sending me a message
direct
on Facebook,
message,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Any of the social platforms.
Okay.
Right now we're on Facebook and Instagram, so they can direct message.
Okay.
DM.
You kids use that terminology a lot.
Yes,
to make
direct.
sure I
Sorry,
follow
you got
it.
it. You got it. Direct message. That's what it stands for. Yeah, so we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.